Welcome to Matters Financial, the Geopolitical on the Frontier, and thank you as always for stopping by. And let me start off with something left field. This was a tweet from Lana Del Rey yesterday, a 5-second video. I just want to say thank you for each and every birthday wish, she wrote. I'm so lucky because I have you. Thanks for making it a beautiful day, Lana. Go and listen to it. It's about 5 seconds, and I can think it's just remarkable and extraordinarily viral. I loved it. This is a little video I took of a mummy and baby elephant in the Samburu, and listen closely. You can hear them crunching, and look at how tiny the baby is, able to walk under its mother's trunk. The place was teeming with baby elephants. It really was so pleasant to be there. This is a photograph of Mount Kenya as seen from the Lewa Conservancy from Marv on Twitter. Now, I put out a very bold call on the 8th of May when I put out a crude oil price target of $32 a barrel. And take a look at this. This is Lee_Sachs, and there it goes. Subsequently, US crude oil just below $42.50. And I said in May, it's a Wizard of Oz moment, folks. There is no one behind the curtain, and the market is primed to crash. And yesterday's WTI drop took the contract to year-to-date lows, touching the lowest level since last August. We're now at 42.47. So I still think it trades bearishly. Bear in mind that tomorrow we might have a trajectory slowdown in the number of rigs that are being deployed in the US because of the price fall. That might give an opportunity for a short covering rally, and one can try and sell into that maybe. But I think essentially we're definitely going below 40. Saudi FX reserves. This is a chart from Holger. Now take a look at that, because, and I'll come to why. Prince Mohammad bin Salman is seen here shaking hands with the Saudi Grand Mufti, Sheikh Abdul Aziz al-Sheikh, during an allegiance pledging ceremony in Mecca. This was after being appointed the Crown Prince, and here you see him sitting during an allegiance pledging ceremony in Mecca as well. Now, the reason I wanted to show you that chart of FX reserves is because at the Riyadh summit, the kingdom committed 1/5 of its remaining forex reserves to a purchase of beautiful American arms. And I was saying, look, those reserves are going to fall off a cliff when oil slumps towards $32 a barrel, firstly. You then spent so much of it on this. And I concluded by saying, the House of Saud's protector has always been the US. But this time I thought an American president had excelled himself at extracting a mind-bogglingly egregious price in the context of where the oil price is and where Saudi Arabia finds itself at this moment. Saudi budget surplus deficit. Take a look at this from Holger again. An interview in Bloomberg. He's ambitious, he's bold, he thinks big, but is running very high risks. He hasn't been rewarded for performance. He's been rewarded because he's King Salman's favorite son, and that ultimately he would become positioned to become the next king. In his lightning rise to power in 2 years, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has shaken things up in ways not seen since the founding of the kingdom 85 years ago. Abroad, he has escalated the war in the Yemen, and this month cut ties with neighboring Qatar. At home, he instigated an economic overhaul that's popular with foreign investors, but harder to swallow for some Saudis. At 31, he is heir to the throne, effectively running the world's largest oil exporter now, and likely for decades to come. His generation was the first on the internet, the first to play video games, and the first to get its information from screens. We think in a very different way, he said. Our dreams are different. Said he's used to resistance. He says he studies Winston Churchill and Sun Tzu's The Art of War and will turn adversity to his advantage. He is, in fact, in a perfect storm. He needs to stop out a number of positions, including the Yemen, and needs to do it quick. And it looks entirely likely that he will take that course. More likely, he double downs. Home Thoughts, A. Mampika. This is a drummer, a photograph that I found from Perles Duque, and I liked the sense of motion in the hands of this photograph, and that took me back to a photograph I took at the Fairmont in Mount Kenya of the drummers. I said drummers with groove, and then this caught my attention as well. Final visit to the Musée d'Appé before the museum closes permanently. Have a look at this piece of art. Time Out London tweeted summer solstice, the longest day in London. It was a nice photograph. I know London like the back of my hand. I walked from Hampstead to Hammersmith when I'd run out of money. Been just about everywhere. Of course, there are certain areas I know much better, like around my school, which was at Westminster, in that area, Hampstead, South London, where I lived. I've just been about everywhere in that wonderful city, and I hope things get back under control, because really it's quite an extraordinary scenario that has unfolded. Let's move on to political reflections. NATO F-16 fighter aircraft attempts to get close to Russian Shoigu's plane over neutral Baltic waters. Report, this is brinkmanship of the highest order. Shoigu is the defense minister, the Russian defense minister. And my worry is that, brinkmanship can tip over the edge. In Moscow, Putin was meeting with the president of Brazil, Michel Temer. ISIS destroyed one of the greatest mosques in Islam on the night the Quran was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, which about sums it up, doesn't it, really? The great mosque of al-Nuri in Mosul tradition holds that Nuruddin Zangi built the mosque in 1172-1173, shortly before his death. According to the Chronicle of Ibn al-Athir, after Nuruddin took control of Mosul, he ordered his nephew Fakhruddin to build the mosque. And then the mosque was well known for the leaning minaret known as al-Hadba, the hunchback. Grattan Geary, a 19th century traveller, described the minaret's appearance. It is several feet out of the perpendicular, though it starts fair from the ground and at the top before putting on its gallery and dome, it regains an erect posture. Its attitude is that of a man bowing. Is that a Europe hat? Barbara Tash and many people on Twitter asked about the Queen. And then in another interesting article, Beshitsky is talking about how Osborne's profile is similar to that of Khalid Massoud. Osborne's profile is similar to that of Khalid Massoud, the convert to Islam who perpetrated the March 22nd attack that started at Westminster Bridge in London. Father of 4, Osborne, Massoud had 3 kids, long history of violence, went to jail for one of the brawls in which he used a knife. Osborne is described as shouty and volatile, though seems to have kept his outbursts at the level of pub confrontations, and we've discussed this is the long tail. Brussels, explosion heard, Central Station evacuated, massive emergency services deployment. If you haven't seen this documentary by Adam Curtis, take a look, Twilight of the Dogs, and it's all about Jamie Goldsmith and Tiny Rowland, and I thought, it's quite circular when you think about the Trump administrations and those sorts of personalities that come to the fore. The Met Office says the temperature has reached 33.9 degrees centigrade at Heathrow in West London, making it the hottest June day since 1976. Pretty incredible. Peak Francafrique, left to right, Benin's XPN, Zinzou, Sarkozy, Ouattara, Acor, Boss Basin, and the Bolloré Sun. UN forecasts that the current world population of nearly 7.6 billion will increase to 8.6 billion by 2030, 9.8 billion in 2050, and 11.2 billion in 2100. The population in Africa is notable for its rapid rate of growth, and it is anticipated that over half of global population growth between now and 2050 will take place in that region, he said. At the other extreme, it is expected that the population of Europe will in fact decline somewhat in the coming decades. I asked, demographic dividend or demographic time bomb? In just minutes, Ethereum, which is a cryptocurrency, flash crashed from $300 to $13. I wish I'd known about it. I bought something at 13. Let's move on to the currency markets. Euro dollar 111.56, dollar index 97.51, Japanese yen 111.02, Swiss franc 0.9724 for the pound. Well, that's been all over the place. We're now at 126.60, and I'll come to what's been going on there in a minute. And then the Aussie dollar 0.7550, Indian rupee 64.525, the Sensex at an all-time high. There really is an Narendra Modi dividend for the Indian markets at the moment. South Korean won 11.4211, it's a bit softer, isn't it? The Rial softer as well, 333.51, Egyptian pound 18.1415, and the Rand above 13 at 13.0523 when I checked last. But that's very volatile. 12.60 is the place to sell it, that's resistance. 13.40 gets the other side of the range. Major change in position from Bank of England chief economist and Uber dove Andy Haldane says he expects to vote for a rate hike soon. This spiked sterling above 127. But I think once this noise comes out, we're getting towards 125. Dollar index, I'll put up a 3-month chart. We've had a big figure trading rebound here, and I think that's what I was looking for when I said it. I thought it could rebound a bit. Gold, now this is interesting, 12.52. I think this is a bit of a trading buy now around these levels. I'll put up a chart of Brent crude. This is around the 45 level, and I think we're going to go below 40. Karen Richards, every Tesla Model X needs 15 kilograms of cobalt. Every iPhone needs 10 grams. Glencore is the largest producer of cobalt, says Investec. Emerging markets, Chinese equities have risen to an 18-month high, according to David Inglis. Sub-Saharan Africa, the Africa head of the IMF, was speaking at CSIS Live, and he said the following: down year economically in Africa, 1.5% growth was the worst in decades, is being compounded by rising food insecurity. He said Africa's growth is expected to rebound moderately to 2.7% in 2017 and then 3% in 2018. He also said the rise in public debt in Africa has been compounded by exchange rate depreciations, that's true as well, and said a broad-based, 2016 saw a broad-based slowdown in Africa. Commodity exporters took a major hit, and the hit is about to get worse. Interesting piece in Quartz, an ancient Islamic city has been found under an Ethiopian town where local law spoke of giants. Residents of Hala, a small town in eastern Ethiopia, have always suspected there was something special about their city. For years, farmers have been unearthing Chinese coins, old pottery, building stones so massive that local law has said that only giants could have moved them. What a story. Now a 2-year archaeological dig by a team from the universities of Exeter, Addis Ababa and Leuven in Belgium has confirmed some of their suspicions. Researchers have found evidence of an ancient trading city connected with the Gulf, Egypt and India, as well as Islamic cities throughout Africa. The team found remnants of what appears to be a 12th century mosque, similar to those found in Tanzania and Somaliland, jewelry as well as pottery from as far as China and the Maldives. The researchers also found coins from 13th century Egypt. In an important development, Angola has shifted its tone on Congo, deepening Kabila's isolation. More direct challenges come from Sindika Dokolo, a Congolese businessman and art collector who is married to the billionaire daughter of President José Eduardo dos Santos. Having previously steered clear of national politics, Dokolo has in recent weeks hit out at Kabila on Twitter and in interviews, drawing comparisons with the end of Congolese's late dictator Mobutu Sese Seko. We underestimate Congo's capacity to destabilize the region, he told Reuters. We are playing with matches on a barrel of explosives, and that worries me a lot. He says he's commenting as a private Congolese citizen. Clearly, as husband to Isabel dos Santos, this signals frustration in Luanda, said Alex Vines. This would be a major hit on Kabila's chances if Angola dropped him. Wall Street Journal graphics, Congo's escalating political crisis sends millions into exile. Just look at that. The vice president of Congo's Catholic Bishops' Conference is in Geneva to lobby for an international probe into the Kasai violence. Horrendous numbers. Frightening. Over 3,300 people, apparently. And in this sort of remote area, they're never going to get the numbers right. Angolan capital tops list of most expensive cities for expats. Knocked Hong Kong off the top spot. That's not going to last long because this oil boom is being unwound. South African oil share up 1.48% this year, but at a early January low. Dollar versus rand, look, sell rebounds. I don't think the South African president's going anywhere soon. Egyptian pound, 18.1415. Global investors hit panic button on Nigeria, and Nigeria sells off $20.3 million of shares, plunges 2.61% on Eutelsat debt scare. That's from my friend B. Boasson. I think it also might have something to do with oil. After a stupendous rally, the Nigerian oil share is up 24.57% this year. So even after that correction, you might want to bag some gains. Bob Diamond is selling 35% of Atlas Mara to raise money for Nigeria. Will raise $200 million, selling new shares to existing shareholders in Fairfax Africa, and by issuing a convertible note to the Toronto-based investment company. Atlas Mara said. Also agreed to acquire an indirect 13.4% shareholding in Union Bank of Nigeria from the Claremont Group for $55 million, which will raise its effective stake in the Lagos-based lender to 44.5%. So interesting that they're upsizing the position in Nigeria. Ghana Stock Exchange is up 14.81% this year. Hall About Africa, who I follow on Twitter, says congratulations against Zimbabwe maize farmers, bumper crop in some instances, 11 tons per hectare, against government benchmark goal of 5 tons. And, I was down there, wasn't I, in Zambia, and I noticed how green it was. And what happened, of course, was follow the weather system, the rains went south. And therefore, you're going to see quite a big good boost in those southern countries which are in SADC and COMESA, which is being underestimated. I saw Zambia, for example, had its GDP forecast upgraded by the IMF, and I think you'll see about 1.5% to 2% added to GDP across those countries. And quite a meaningful bounce. Liquid Telecom eyes targets and debt with $600 million fundraising. Alongside a new $100 million credit facility, company looks to keep up with demand for connectivity in markets including Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda. Data traffic is expected to rise by a third a year out to 2020, according to the company. Nick Rudnick, chief executive, said integrated fiber networks are being offered on a multinational basis for the first time, which creates opportunities for an enormous amount of growth. Customers in Nairobi can connect in Kigali with the same speeds as seen in Western markets. It is the first time on a multinational scale. This has been possible on the continent. It is the kind of service seen in Europe some years ago, and Africa is catching up, he said. Interesting. Angelina Jolie was in Kenya for the World Refugee Day. Look at this photograph, Kenya from space. This is Ignacio Magnani, who's in a space machine up there and takes photographs all the world. Great to follow. Mombasa port traffic up 11% in Q1, sees no election disruption. That's interesting. Port handles 7.2 million tons of cargo between January and March, against 6.5 million in a similar period last year. During the period, imports accounted for 6 million tons against 5.5 million handled in the same 2016 period, an increase of 10%, the Kenya Ports Authority said. Handled 877,778 tons in exports, up 4% on the amount of tonnage handled in the same period last year. On that note, let me put up a photograph of my beloved Fort Jesus, taken from the north coast. A Kenyan pursuit, perfecting the chicken dish kuku paka. I never knew that dish could make. The New York Times. Kenya shilling at 103.44. Nairobi all share up 14.92% this year, and at 23-month highs. EABL rallied 2.69% to close at 267, a fresh 2017 high. It's up 9.426% this year. It's playing a bit of catch-up. National Bank up 62.58% in June. That was all on the story that there was possibly a share swap between KCB and National Bank. Barclays Bank, it's up 9.89% year to date and is at a 2017 high. Mumia Sugar corrected 3.85% off a 2017 high, but that's had another meteoric rally in June on nothing at all. The NSE 20 is up 13.24% and at more than 11-month highs. I like this photograph of downtown Nairobi in 1957. Take a look. Photo taken from Delamere Avenue, which is Kenyatta Avenue today. And finally, Kenya says it will raise tax on gambling to 35%. Once again, thank you for stopping by.